Welcome to another explainer. This is ACIM, Lesson 87, Review Lessons 73, 74. I am so glad you're joining us because today we are taking a highly structured, super practical journey straight from fear to peace. We're going to use the specific text of today's lesson to really shift our perception and ground ourselves. So let's just get right into the material. Our review today covers two very distinct ideas. I'll read them right from the text for you. Lesson 73, I will there be light. And Lesson 74, there is no will but God's. These two powerful statements are the absolute foundation of everything we're reviewing today. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. Lesson 73 Breakdown. Choosing the light. The text actually begins with a really bold, proactive declaration. It says, I will use the power of my will today. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is that finding true peace isn't some passive experience that you just, sit around and wait to happen to you. It starts as an active, deliberate choice. It requires you to consciously exercise your own willpower, specifically when you find yourself pushing back against things that the text describes as unseen and unreal. This brilliantly illustrates exactly what we're using our willpower to push back against. On one side, we have darkness. The text talks about groping about, being fearful of shadows, and being afraid of things unseen. Let's demystify that a bit, right? Because those shadows and that darkness, that represents our everyday human fears and anxieties. Those hypothetical worries that keep us up at 2 a.m. even though they aren't actually real. But on the flip side, we have light. The text positions light as a trusted guide. When we consciously choose the light, we're deciding to follow it where it leads us, looking only at what it shows us. And that leads directly to clarity, or what the source material calls the peace of true perception. So, how does this build into practical action? Well, the text actually gives us these very specific, highly practical phrases to use when that anxiety or darkness starts to creep in. If you're facing a tough situation, you can literally just say to yourself, this cannot hide the light I will to see. Or if you're having a conflict with someone, you can insert their name and say, you stand with me in light, name. Or if you're just feeling completely overwhelmed by it all, simply remind yourself, in the light, this will look different. Think of these as your on-the-go tools to shift your perception in real time. Moving right along, Part 2, Lesson 74 Breakdown, Finding Eternal Safety. The anchor quote for this half of the review is, I am safe today because there is no will but God's. Now, just to frame God's will in a universally understandable way for our analysis here, think of it in this context as the ultimate state of psychological comfort, absolute safety, and peace. It's this baseline reality of complete security that remains completely untouched by our daily chaotic lives. Now, what's really interesting here is how the source material breaks down fear into this exact causal chain. It's honestly fascinating. Step 1. We start to believe there is another will, meaning we believe something outside of that ultimate safety is actively working against us. Step 2. Because of that belief, we naturally become afraid. Step 3. When we're afraid, our human instinct is to try to attack or defend ourselves. And finally, Step 4. Because we are attacking, we cement the belief that our eternal safety is threatened. It's basically a psychological domino effect of anxiety that we completely create for ourselves. But here is the highly empowering cognitive shift that the text advocates. It simply says, today, I will recognize that all this has not occurred. It's asking us to immediately stop that domino effect we just walked through. By recognizing that these perceived threats to our safety are really just illusions, just shadows, we realize we never actually left that state of ultimate safety to begin with. And just like the previous lesson, we're given specific applications to help us out in the moment. When you feel threatened, you can say, let me perceive this in accordance with the will of God. When dealing with a difficult person, you can say, it is God's will you are his son, name, and mine as well. And for confusing or painful circumstances, you can remind yourself, this is part of God's will for me, however I may see it. These forms are purposefully designed to quickly realign our perspective back to safety the very moment we feel the urge to fear or attack. Part 3. Daily application, when and how to practice. So we have all this great theory, right? But how do we actually use it today? Well, the key takeaway from the text regarding practice is that it's entirely situational. Interestingly, the source text doesn't give us a rigid time schedule or a set number of repetitions to get through. Instead, it offers these applications to be used completely dynamically. You apply them organically throughout your day, the exact moment you feel threatened by the darkness, or whenever those anxious shadows we talked about earlier begin to pop up. It is quite literally an on-demand toolkit for your peace of mind. Almost done. Part 4.
Final review, cementing the takeaways.
Let's bring this all together and visually reiterate our 2 core lesson statements one last time. 73, I will there be light, and 74, there is no will but God's. The ultimate summary here is that true peace comes from consciously choosing the light over the shadows and deeply trusting in that underlying baseline of ultimate safety. Find your light today. By actively using your will to push back against the unreal, you can keep those shadows at bay and experience true perception. But I want to leave you with this. What specific shadow are you going to choose to shine your light on first today? Think about it. If you found this structured breakdown of the text helpful, please take a quick second to like and subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Keep practicing, and I will see you next time.